start of 2020 saw the UK ravaged by severe storms, with flooding and landslides in many areas. And as my carp fishing year began at Blackthorn Fishery, this was just the overtures to one of the strangest periods I have ever experienced in my 60 plus years. I just thought I'd give you a bit of heads up of actually what I'm doing. The middle rod is fished about 12 wraps, and that's straight out in front of me virtually, and that's just my normal wafter rig, but I've got a cut down pop up on there to make it into a wafter. That's fished with about 3 or 4 spods of my usual spod mix over the top, so he's just got crumbed up live system boilie with some corn and just a handful of maggots gone in this time, which is something I don't normally do. A right hand rod over to the island. I'm fishing a bag, and it's just got a finer mix in there with a few maggots. And the left hand rod off to the other island is a homage to Terry Hearn, and if that kicks off, I'll tell you all about it. Fishing tighter lines than I normally would, I'm effectively fishing for liners, and of course once you start getting liners you can shorten your approach till you actually find where the fish might be willing to take a bait. Yes! It's been about 7:30 on the Thursday morning. The storm helling is starting, and we don't care. Yeah, £23, 3 ounces. I am absolutely delighted. Absolutely, the rain is running down the front of the lens. Happy days. There you go. Quarter to 2 in the morning, the wind has dropped down, it's gone very mild, and life is wonderful. And I'm getting old and weak, but there we are. 34, 2 ounces on my faithful Milky Bee wafter. Absolutely thrilled to bits, and we've only got a few hours before we have to be on our way, so I am chuffed to bits. Absolutely delighted with that. Fantastic. Well, it's the first week of March, and this is my first carp trip out in the bivvy again. We've just pulled up tight here, not doing anything. bar of ice. Freezing my melodies here. Never mind. Incredibly cold night. There was ice everywhere this morning and hailstones. I was going to say it was a good quiet night, but the geese were actually ridiculous last night, chasing each other. Squawk, 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 squawk. They could start a fight in solitary confinement, those things. Not the biggest, but it couldn't get any prettier, could it? Happy days again. Oh, it's a piggin. Birdie, birdie. As a filmmaker as well as an angler, it's always a struggle to try and get the footage and sound that you want and concentrate on actually catching fish. As I'm fishing on my own most of the time, I'm always walking a fine line between success and failure, but it's something I really enjoy doing regardless of whether it gets published or not. You wouldn't be surprised to know there's a great deal of footage that ends up on the cutting room floor. Got a bit of a dual take going on here. Now, just need a little bit of luck here. Happy days. Just after 12 o'clock. Yellow inch stiffy on the margin, the far margin that is. 21.6. That probably went in this weekend, this. Welcome to the Birch, mate. A beautiful looking fish, aren't they? Keeping down. Is that good or bad? Oh, bloody. Chopping in front of me now. Ooh. Come on, baby. Oh, come on, Jenny, get a grip. I have no idea what time it is. It's halfway through cooking my tea and the middle rod zoomed off. 34.12. I think that's a new PB for this place. Happy days. And that's the 5th fish. Excellent. Made up with all that. Well, good afternoon everybody. I'm back out of my local carp syndicate, and the good news is last night the subscriptions went through the 400 barrier. I'm in the swim next door to the one I was before, so still got the island swims available to me. So I've got one long rod on the island and two in the island drop off, if you like, with a bit of spod over them. So whilst I've been talking to you about bait and rigs and stuff, the guy in the swim that I fished a couple of weeks ago and had some success is beginning to pack away. Now, whilst he hasn't caught anything, my head is saying get your backside into gear, Jennings, and shift yourself before somebody else gets in there. Half past 6 this morning, right end of the two rods on the island, 30 pound and 3 ounces. I am ridiculously happy. That was on a new coloured boilie and a different rig. Well pleased with that. Makes changing swims all the better, doesn't it? Try and get this zig out of the way. Geese are going oh, that's right. Come away from those trees, you little hermit. Going into the bloody trees now. Goodness me, come on. No, not those trees. Oh, slightly unorthodox, but thank you very much. How about that? 32 pounds, 6 ounces. Absolutely stunning. Just hope I'm not using up all my luck. Anyway, get some treatment on her and get her back. There you go, girl. I know technically it's still winter, and I suppose you could call these winter carp, but spring is well on its way. Ooh, don't like it when they stick their heads out and turn over. Come out. Thank you. There you go. 21.6. Yep, I thought it looked like a mid to upper double. Happy days. I think we better get her back. It's starting to rain. She's been out long enough. What I'm playing now is a lunatic common carp of about 4 or 5 pounds, doing its utmost to totally trash the swim and wipe out all the rods. And whilst causing as much mayhem as it possibly can, it actually leaves the water to leap into the net. Unreal, these things. Pulling deep. Oh, it's pinging off fins all over the place here. It's keeping well down. Jesus. Ooh. Whew. How about that? 36 pounds and 13 ounces. That's another PB for this particular water. How about that? Absolutely thrilled to bits. Well, on arrival it's obviously quite busy here, and I went for a walk around Yeomans, and that was more or less chock-a-block. There was quite a few on Gaunt, but only sort of, I don't know, maybe 4 or 5 on Unity, and I was quite pleased to see that the little bay swim next top by the car park was empty, and I've had fish from here before, and there was a nice wind pushing into this direction. Now I was going to fish my usual rotary rigs, and what we're doing in this instance is moving the bead up from the lead, so that gives the bait room to travel up, to drop. Now I wouldn't use a stiff rig normally, but I'd seen Danny Fairbrass doing it, so I thought I'd give it a go. And it's not the boom stuff that he uses, it's a stiff fluorocarbon combi rig, multi-combi rig, and I've done a video on how to tie this, so I thought I'd give this a crack. It seems to work for him, so there we are. And I've topped that off with a Probate UK squid and orange pop-up boilie, and we'll see how it goes. Here we go. 5:30 in the morning. 21 pound, 8 ounces. Great start. Happy days. Oh, would you believe it? Don't know if you can see that Martin, but that's another squid special. Right, much the same spod mix as I was using the Blackthorn Fishery, but this time there's a load of crushed nuts in there. You've got 15 millers there, there's some chops in there, there's some dumbbells in there, corn, but I've got crushed up, it's 90% crushed up tigers, there's a couple of couple of whole tigers in there, but most of them are crushed up tigers. Quite a bit gone in, I suppose, for me anyway. Well, if you're wondering why my Spod's got a bright red arse, so I can see it easier in the water. If I want to stick baits out over the top of it and put a load of spawn out like I was at Blackthorn. And yes, you could probably use a white one, but I haven't got a white one. I've got 2 black ones, and that's the result. And it works lovely. I'm not fishing my normal slack lines in this particular swim because of the weeds, and I've taken off the flying back leads. I'm not fishing them overly tight, but much tighter than I normally do. And I'm fishing on short drops on the bobbin, so the fish hasn't got to move far before he's feeling a solid resistance. And I've done up the bait runner, so it's hard work for them to actually get some line off. I'm not going to tighten them up solid because I need to be able to shoot out of bed and get to the rod fairly quickly, and I'm not as nimble as I used to be. So there's a little bit of give there for them, but by keeping it fairly tight, they come up onto the surface and don't dive into the big beds of weed out there, which makes them a little bit easier to get back in. There's a huge amount of weed out there. It was up on the top just now. It's just kind of skimming from one weed bed to the other. Just going to try and keep it out of that tree now. Thought we'd done. Yeah. +4 Wednesday afternoon. Whoa. Still very lively. £22, 11 ounces. Yeah. Incredibly lively piece of kit. There we go. £23, 5 ounces on the squid and orange pink pop up. Yeah, how about that? Well, that took off at some speed. Oh, you bugger! Well, on the positive side, that was a run. Just happened to spit the hook out just as we were going over the net cord. Here we are. Up as 4 on the right hand rod on the Wafter. £24 and a couple of ounces. How about that? Brilliant. There we go. 1 o'clock in the morning. Another 18 pounder. Didn't get to see the last one, so just a quickie. I don't know if it's me being out of action for a while, but they fight like stink, these things. Ooh, that pinged off its fins there, horrid. And they don't give up easy. Why you? When everything seems to be going wrong, whatever happens, try and look professional. Flying back lead, take 10, 1, 2, 3. Now I don't know how flying back leads that it worked for 2 particular reasons. There was no bollocking shit wank. Take it again. 1, 2, 3. I've lost it. Right. Take Christ knows. 1, 2, 3. Now I don't know. God knows what this is. Now I don't know how. For the purpose of buffering. Can't take any more of this. Definitely the last one, regardless. Let's try this. Right, it's a different rig, take 472. Now this is a test. Well, I don't know how I can play them any softer, to be honest. Oh, that's just what you don't need, isn't it? I mean, I'm trying to be gentle here, but you've got to be in control at some point, haven't you? If I'm not saying much, I'm too frightened to open my mouth, to be brutally honest. Oh. Thank heavens for that. Yeah. About an hour after that lost fish. Just over 16 pounds. Absolute stunner of a fish. Happy days. Right, let's get her back. Prior to putting the baits out for the evening, I'd always put out half a dozen spoms first, and then when the baits do go out, there's always a small bag of crumb attached to them. 20.5 pounds. Cracking common, a very good mouth on this one. Maybe that's why the hook held, I don't know. Well pleased. What? I'm losing my touch, but these got to be some of the hardest fighting fish I've played for a long time. And that's 21 pound, a couple of ounces. That's cheered me up no end, that is. Excellent. Right, get a bit of ointment on, put her back, put a couple of spots out, I think. Well, it's now mid-afternoon on Monday and we've moved on to home pool for the week. Home with the big girls, and I'm on the gate swim, which is where I started off last time.
Look at this, who would have reckoned? Who would have thought it? I certainly didn't. It's the same fish as last year, weighing 29 pounds 5 ounces. And it feels it. Off the top, that was 6 in the evening. And this is the t'other side, the dark side of the carp.
Well, I'm standing underneath this sadly dying willow and I'm watching the big orange one just going up and down the far margins, come through the gap of the big island. Ooh, she's kiting into those reeds now. Keep it moving, keep moving, come on, come on, come on. Come on, baby. Come on, come on, come on. Now, I know I haven't seen a big fish for a while, but I reckon you could put a saddle on that and ride it to market. How about that for turning your luck around, eh? 39 pounds, 3 ounces. Absolute beaut. Oh. How about that? Not really, it could be Snoopy, but Dave will tell you. This week it's trading under the name of Mine. coming up to bite time from yesterday, although it was drizzling with rain yesterday evening as opposed to a sunny evening. But we're due for rain in the early hours of the morning. I think it's the overtures of Storm Alex apparently arriving. So we're going to be packing up in the wet. But I'm very confident something's going to happen this evening. Just got a good vibe about it. Positive thinking. Don't know where it is. It's weeded up in the island. Well, at least it's come out. Carey! Oh, I didn't think it was that big, Carey. Oh, you bugger. Thought we were winning then. Oh, no. About 6 o'clock on the final evening, 31 pounds and 5 ounces. That is definitely business concluded, I think. Absolutely delighted with that. And beloved's going to be delighted because I'm going to go home in a good mood. Well, hello. It seems an age since I was out doing it. Well, I think it has been. We've been start of the lockdown was when we were at home pool, which meant I couldn't travel locally, and then we had the full lockdown in South Wales, which means I couldn't travel out of the house. That's finished now, and I managed to get back up to the Syndicate, and this is the first time I've been able to fish the Syndicate since March. I've had a couple of sessions at Linear, which have been less busy, but it's been really busy up here. In fact, when I came about midday yesterday, it was really packed and I had to wait for somebody to move out of the swim I'm in now. They'd had a couple of fish in daylight, and fortunately for me it was dry while I set the bivvy up and got the bedding all sorted out, and then once I moved on to the rod it started blowing a hoolie and tipping down the rain, so I got absolutely drenched sorting that out. I didn't initially put any bait out, just fished 3 singles for a few hours, and then sort of just after dark I put out 10 spods. Not particularly any particular distance, not off the island, sort of mid-water in the deeper water. And then at 11:30 I was fortunate enough to get a run, and also fortunate enough it stopped raining for me to do a bit of videoing then. Here we go, 11:30, first evening, 30 pound and 12 ounces on the right hand rod. and it stopped raining for half an hour, which is nice. Excellent start. How about that? Haven't been able to get up here for, well, since March really, since we first locked down. So that's a great welcome back. That is, through all the bits. Yeah, and someone asked me what's with the black armband. Well, it's not a black armband as such. I put it on there when I'm spotting. If you've seen me spotting before, I tend to rest the rod on my forearm, and I just come up with this little ruse to stop it slipping down the forearm. So it's just a bit of elastic and a bit of pipe insulation, and job done. And it works a treat. The spot that I'm using is more or less the one I showed you in Journeyman's Tales Part 3, but this year I added a few little extra flavours, a bit more fruity stuff in there. The bulk of it is crammed up boilie with no more than a handful of corn, but plenty of liquids to disperse through the water column. I'm only introducing it about 3 or 4 spoms at a time, but on a fairly regular basis, to keep some activity in the water. Well, finally, on the last morning, we got a break in the weather. It's actually stopped raining, the wind has calmed down. So I thought I'd just do that piece about the rigs I was talking about earlier on. Now, one of the joys of being in lockdown was overindulging in too much YouTube, but I came across a Think and Tackle podcast with Frank Warwick, and if you haven't seen it, it is well worth watching. I mean, I've watched it 2 or 3 times. But during the course of the podcast, he's extolling the virtues of long shank hooks. Now, I've never really got into long shank hooks that much, but I thought I'd give them a go this winter. So I came across these ESP trig hammer hooks, which are quite a different shape for a long shank hook. They've got quite a wide gape on them, so I thought I'd give those a go. Now, these are the 3 sizes I've got: the size 4, size 6 and a size 8. And you can see up against a normal size 4 wide gape hook, the size 4 trig hammer is quite the same sort of size gape on it, but it's got slightly longer shank. And then you've got the normal sort of pattern of long shank, which is quite a small gape on it in comparison. Now, when I first saw the size 4 hook, I thought it looked ridiculously big. Now, during the summer months, I normally fish with size 4, very rarely with a size 6, but normally fish with a size 4 curved shank or wide gape. But I have to say the size 4 trig hammer looks huge. So for the sessions during the winter when I'm going to be using it, I'm going to be using no more than the size 6. Now, I tend to drop hook size in the winter anyway, from a 4 to a 6, but 6 would certainly be the largest one I'd use. I might drop down to using a size 8. Also in the winter months, which I referred to earlier, with changing the rigs, is to go over to using a combi link. For the winter combi rig, I'm using 30-pound fluorocarbon attached to 25-pound braid via an all-bite knot. On this particular version, I'm using the multi-rig. That's the one that had the 30-pounder with the homemade orange wafter on it, and that's what I will continue to use throughout the winter months.
Having finished setting up all the gear, I was relaxing, watching the scene, hopefully much like you are. Then there was a huge bang off to my right, and as I looked up I could see a light aircraft just clearing the tree line. As I switched on the camera, the plane just managed to pull up over the island as it seemed to regain power. That could have turned out to be an interesting start to a trip, couldn't it?
On the right hand rod, fished in the deep water off the island, is a Snowman rig using Probait UK TT bottom bait and a squid and orange pop-up. On the left hand rod, fished in the near side margin, is a pink Probait UK squid and orange pop-up on a hinge stiff rig. Whilst on the middle rod, again fished in the deep water off the island, is one of my homemade wafters. Right at last knockings, a carp has finally stuck its head out off to my right, so I've recast the left hand rod into the area where the fish showed. It's been very busy up here again today, and it's kind of forced me into a swim that I've had my eye on for a while, just margin fishing. For most of my winter campaign on the local syndicate, I'm going to be using Probait's UK TT. Now it's a kind of a nutty, creamy, highly digestible boilie, which has got a huge reputation on here and many other waters around the country and indeed abroad. And it's not just a winter bait, it works all year round. So I'll be a fool not to give it a go. Now, you know, I like to fish wafters, so I'm going to convert one of the bottom baits into a wafter by inserting a cork plug. So I use a 6mm drill to drill out a small hole about 3/4 of the way through the boat, and then just insert a 6mm cork plug into it. And when I'm fixing it or putting the needle through for the boilie, what I tend to do is to go in the cork side very gently, twisting it through, and pull it back out, and then turn it round, go back as I would normally, and then pull the floss through. And that's the kind of rig I'm using at the moment, and with the long shank hook that I spoke about in the last video. Actually, I'm not a particularly good advocate for it at the moment because I'm not catching, but I don't think anything's come out for a few days now. Well, as you can see, I moved swims. I was sitting watching the water yesterday afternoon. It was about 3 o'clock. A fish boshed out just out off the island. So I watched it for a bit, and then about half an hour later, another one boshed out. No, say another one, could have been the same fish. So I decided that the best thing to do was to move back into the swim that I was in last week to give me access to the island. So that's a job and a half, I can tell you. But anyway, I managed to do it. And I don't know what's going to happen after this, to be perfectly honest. I'm supposed to be going to Blackthorn Fishery later on this month for a long weekend, but I'm not sure whether we can actually travel out of Wales legally yet. I know Blackthorn are open, but they can't take anybody from Tier 3, I think it is. So if they can't take anybody from Tier 3, they might not be accepting people from Wales, because legally we're not allowed out, and I don't want to compromise Charlie particularly, but I don't know if the Welsh Government are going to make an announcement about travel tomorrow. Anyway, fingers crossed they will relax it for a bit so we can leave the country. Anyway, I'm starving. I'm going to start cooking my tea in a minute, I think. And fingers are crossed for this evening and tonight. It's the weekend before Christmas and we're at Blackthorn Fishery. And as you can see, the sun is shining quite warmly at the moment, and there's a fairly strong southwesterly wind blowing in towards the lodge. The left-hand rod and the middle rod, if you like, are going to be fishing the open water in front of me. And I'm using hinge stiff rigs with a Probate UK 12mm pop-ups on and a maggot cluster, and they're going to be fixed to a boa rig, which you've seen me using before. And I'm just going to fish those with PVA bags and maggots. Now the right end rod is off to the bay to my right. Now I know from personal experience the fish do get down there in the colder months. So I put a low line Ronnie rig pop-up, the small yellow fruity pop-up on that, and a couple of handfuls of TT boilie crumb and corn in the area. The joys of tying up maggot bags in the rain. Happy days. Oh, wet bags, cold hands, it's a fun old game, isn't it? Because I don't want to hang the bag off the hook, because that has a tendency to straighten the curve on the hook link. So I tie the bag on the swivel and lightly put the hook into the maggot bag, and that's what's going out there. to no effect. But we try, even in the rain. What we have here is the joys of PVA maggot bags in the rain. Don't hang about and get it right first time. And when you don't get it right first time, don't settle for that'll do. Well, it certainly was a disruptive angling year. I started incredibly well before an enforced shielding break, and no sooner was I allowed out again to play than we were back into a lockdown in Wales. But incredibly, at one point it was 8:30s for 8 trips, but as soon as the winter session started, the blanking commenced, and I ended the year back in a lockdown. As 2021 starts, in Wales we can only walk locally to fishing, which means no fishing for me, as opposed to our friends in England who at the time of publishing can carry on day ticket fishing. Whether you're out doing it or not, stay safe and look after yourself. And I'll see you all again in the not too distant future, I hope. Cheers for now.